Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Raisha Saigal. On the show tonight, Russian President Vladimir Putin continues to launch a major offensive in Ukraine in a bid to redraw the Ukrainian map. And all this comes as the world's attention shifts to Alaska for the Trump-Putin meeting. And on the show tonight, we rather tell you that how Ukraine's fate will be decided in the next 48 hours. We will also tell you about the rising tensions in South China Sea after a Chinese warship chased a smaller Philippine patrol boat. Also on the show, months after the Pahalgam terror attack, Pakistan has provoked India yet again. But the Indian army successfully thwarted an infiltration attempt in the Uri sector. All that and a lot more lined up for you on the show tonight. Let's get you started. Russia is turning up the heat on the battlefield, and the timing is no accident. Just days before, US President Donald Trump sits down with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska this Friday. Russian troops have launched some of its most aggressive strikes in months to reshape the map of Ukraine before the first US-Russia meet since 2021. Take a look at these visuals right now on your screens. On Tuesday, Russia claimed it hit Ukrainian defense plants, drone sites, storage sites, and even training facilities, while shooting down nearly 180 Ukrainian drones in a single day. And that's what Russia has to say. Of course, Ukraine tells a different story. It has said that it repelled 91 separate assaults in just 24 hours across 6 regions on the front lines. The heaviest fighting is in Pokrovsk, a city whose fall could change the course of the war. Because Pokrovsk isn't just another city. It has been described as the beating heart of Ukraine's coal and steel industry. Well, the city's massive coal mine yields over 5 million tons a year, fueling steelworks that keep Ukraine's economy as well as its defense industry alive. Well, if Russia takes it, Ukraine's steel output could plunge to as little as 2 million, costing $5 billion in lost exports. But the stakes of taking Pokrovsk are not just economic. The city is a logistical hub. Its railways and highways keep weapons, ammunition, and reinforcements flowing to the Ukrainian troops that are busy holding the Donbas line. So if Moscow takes Pokrovsk, it rather gets a launch pad for deeper offensives into central Ukraine, along with control of valuable coal reserves to feed the Kremlin's war machines. Well, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has said that giving up Donbas would be like opening the door to a third war in Ukraine, because it would leave the rest of the country, complete Ukraine, exposed. This military push is coming as diplomacy takes center stage in the war. This Friday on August 15th, Trump and Putin will meet at Alaska's Elmendorf Air Force Base for the first US and Russia summit in a span of 4 years, because the last happened in 2021. The White House is calling it a listening exercise, but Trump has hinted that both sides may have to swap land to reach a ceasefire. The problem is that Ukraine, the country at the center of this war, will not be at the talks table. And so, ahead of the Trump and Putin meeting, Zelensky and European leaders held a virtual conference to stress one point: no deals about Ukraine without Ukraine. And according to reports that are not surprising, 3/4 of Ukrainians reject any plan that trades land for peace. And well, inside the Ukrainian military, that opposition is even stronger. On Wednesday, Russia stated that its stance on ending the war in Ukraine remains unchanged since Putin set out his conditions last year. So, what are the conditions? Number one, Kiev must abandon its NATO ambitions. Number two, withdraw troops from parts of Donetsk, Zaporizhia and Kherson that it still controls. And number three, recognize Russian sovereignty over Crimea and all occupied regions. Russia, as of now, controls 19% of Ukraine, including all of Crimea, all of Luhansk, more than 70% of Donetsk, Zaporizhia and Kherson regions, and slivers of the Kharkiv, Sumy, Mykolaiv and Dnipropetrovsk regions. Ukraine, of course, calls all these demands by Russia an ultimatum. But Moscow says it's the price for peace. Ukraine has repeatedly said it will never recognize Russian occupation of its land. And most countries recognize Ukraine's territory within its 1991 borders. Based on the current front lines, Putin's demand would entail Ukraine ceding an additional 21,000 square kilometers to Russia. Zelensky has said that Russia must agree to a ceasefire before any kind of territorial issues are discussed. He would reject any Russian proposal that Ukraine pull its troops from the eastern Donbas region and cede its defensive lines. But there are concerns that the Russian president has his eyes set on Ukraine's larger Donbas region, which includes parts of the Donetsk region that it still holds. The question is, why Donbas is so important? Let's revisit now. For Russia, Donbas is a springboard for future offensives. For Ukraine, it's both a shield and an important part of its identity. Donbas shaped some of the most important battles of World War II. And in this war, the fierce fight for Bakhmut and Avdiivka cost both sides dearly, which Russia ultimately captured. The cities still under Ukrainian control are tied together by one north-south road. And if Ukraine loses them, Ukraine's entire defensive line could collapse. The region holds tens of millions of dollars worth of fortifications, which is an important rail network and mineral-rich land. For Moscow, Donbas also means resources. The soil is rich in coal, feeding Ukraine's steel industry. The Donetsk football club is also nicknamed as the Miners. And as mentioned right now, Russia is pushing towards Pokrovsk, a key city in the region. And that's why Donbas, for both the sides, Ukraine and Russia, is rather way more than just a battlefield, because it is the key to the war's future. Well, as the Trump-Putin-Alaska summit approaches, for Russia, every gain on the battlefield is leverage in the talks table. The question is, will the war stop with a handshake? Or will it take far more than words to bring this war to an end? Well, we will be closely watching. The reckless act of Chinese warship chasing a smaller Philippine patrol boat has reignited tensions in the South China Sea. In the air, Chinese fighters chased Philippine plane, and now the US has entered the fray. 2 American warships are deployed in the contested waters. Our next report telling you more.
The flashpoint began with a high-speed chase, a tense standoff on the high seas. A Chinese destroyer, a colossal gray behemoth of steel, relentlessly hounded a smaller Philippine Coast Guard vessel, its intentions clear and menacing. This was not a routine patrol, a show of force, an aggressive maneuver, but the hunter became the victim of its own aggression. The Chinese destroyer collided not with its target, but with another Chinese warship. But this wasn't an isolated incident of maritime miscalculation. In the skies above the same disputed shoal, Chinese fighter jets executed intercept maneuvers against Philippine aircraft. The ramifications exploded immediately. Now 2 American warships steamed towards the flashpoint, their presence a stark declaration that Washington will not tolerate Beijing's seaborne bullying campaign. The incident is the latest in a series of confrontations between China and the Philippines in the South China Sea, which Beijing claims almost entirely, despite an international ruling that the assertion has no legal basis. China's militarization of the waters and its expansive territorial claims have inflamed tensions in the region. More than 60% of global maritime trade passes through the disputed waterway. Bureau Report, WION World is one.
Well, the knives are out between U.S. President Donald Trump and his former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. We are talking about John-Bolton. And this time, it's around a high-stakes summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin on U.S. soil. That's in Alaska on August 15th. The latest salvo, Trump has come out guns blazing for what he calls, and I'm quoting him here, unfair media and fake news around his upcoming Alaska meeting with his Russian counterpart. Trump pointed to networks promoting quotes from former officials turned critics, including John-Bolton. Bolton has panned the summit between the two leaders in Alaska as a great victory for Putin. Trump termed Bolton a fired loser. Quoting from Trump's post on Truth Social, very unfair media is at work on my meeting with Putin, constantly quoting fired losers and really dumb people like John-Bolton, who just said that even though the meeting is on American soil, Putin has already won. What's that all about? We are winning on everything. The fake news is working overtime. No tax, no overtime. That's what Putin said on his Truth Social website. John-Bolton has expressed strong criticism of Trump on global TV networks. Now listen in to what Bolton had told WION exclusively just 24 hours back here on Gravitas. Take a listen.
Right. I think the meeting in Alaska is a win for Putin. I mean, he goes from being an international pariah, leading a rogue state that committed unprovoked aggression against Ukraine, to standing in the world spotlight, having his picture taken with the president of the United States. That's a big win for him right there. And I think he will use the opportunity to meet with Trump to try and work his KGB training on him further and see if he can't make steps toward the relationship they used to have, which in Trump's mind was that they were good friends.
John-Bolton has repeatedly taken on Trump in the recent past. He had deep concern over the upcoming summit, saying it serves the Russian president's interests. He had even likened it to the controversial previous visit by Taliban representatives to the U.S. Just last week, Bolton criticized Trump's display of military readiness when he repositioned nuclear submarines near Russia. He warned that the move was reckless and could be misread by the Kremlin as a first strike warning. Well, all eyes are now on outcomes and ways ahead from Alaska. Across India, the tricolour is flying high as the country prepares to mark its 79th Independence Day this Friday. From chief ministers leading flag-hoisting ceremonies to police and school students taking part in parades. Celebrations under the Har Ghar Tiranga campaign are in full swing. Take a look. Let's now tell you what else lined up for you on Gravitas tonight. Well, from West Asia, we will tell you how Israel is reportedly in talks with South Sudan over a plan that could redefine the boundaries of human rights and international law. We will also tell you how artificial intelligence is violating dignity, privacy and trust, the brunt of which is borne by women in Hong Kong. Also on the show, uproar mounts after US Capitol takeover. We'll get the complete report on the show. And well, months after the Pahalgam terror attack, Pakistan has dared to provoke India again. A massive infiltration bid along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir's Uri sector was foiled by the Indian Army. According to the Army, one soldier was killed in the line of duty. The Army had launched a counter-infiltration operation in the Chirunda village of Uri sector, which is close to the LOC. The operation was launched during the intervening night of August 12th and 13th. That's after alert Indian troops picked up movement along the border. A massive cordon and search operation in the rugged terrain is underway. And sources confirm that a fierce exchange followed. The latest crackdown comes amid heightened alert, with security forces maintaining a tight grip on all infiltration routes. The infiltration bid along the line of control comes on the back of multiple counter-terror operations in Jammu and Kashmir. Earlier, the Indian Army had begun Operation Akal, the third counter-terror operation in Jammu and Kashmir in the last 2 weeks. The encounter has entered its 13th day, and at least 2 Indian soldiers have been martyred in the operation. The Army also carried out Operation Mahadev, in which 3 Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorists involved in the Pahalgam terror attack were neutralized. All 3 Pakistani terrorists were killed in the forest area of Lidwas in Dachigam. Shifting focus to West Asia now. Picture the current state of Gaza. Mountains of rubble and ruins, houses and buildings destroyed, and people scrambling for places to live in. And here, right now, Israel is proposing to resettle hundreds of Palestinians from Gaza to South Sudan. As per report by the Associated Press, this is a part of a larger effort by Israel to facilitate mass emigration from a region that is left in ruins by prolonged war to another. However, the Sudanese Foreign Ministry made a statement refuting the reports of its engagement with Israel over this issue. As per Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the resettlement plan is in line with US President Donald Trump's vision of relocating much of Gaza's population through what is referred to as voluntary migration. However, Palestinian rights groups warn that this could amount to expulsion by force and further violate international law. However, this is not the first time. Earlier too, Israel floated similar resettlement proposals with other African nations, such as Somalia and the breakaway region of Somalia known as Somaliland. However, such a plan has been met with global criticism, given how most of these areas grapple with poverty, hunger, and other humanitarian issues. Countries like Egypt, with which Gaza shares a border, opposed the resettlement plan of Gaza, fearing an influx of refugees into its own land. So why is Israel thinking to zero in on Sudan now? For South Sudan, this deal has been proposed as an opportunity to help build closer ties to Israel And in the same breath with the United States of America as well. Well, for the cash-strapped nation, buying this plan could mean making inroads to having global allies, having sanctions and bans upon it removed, and forge economic and diplomatic partnerships. Basically, this could set Sudan on a redemption curve of sorts and was pitched as a win-win move. But the question is, how feasible is it even to move Gaza's population of roughly 2 million people in proposed makeshift camps? As of now, the details are yet to be chalked out. Besides that, there are ethnic and religious differences between the Palestinian and the Sudanese communities that need addressing before they could perhaps coexist. Besides that, Sudan's long and painful history of recovering from a post-independent civil war that claimed lives of nearly 400,000 people left parts of the country facing famine. Therefore, questions arise. Number one, how could Sudan, a region torn with famine, possibly accommodate starving Gazans and make their lives any better? Experts ask, will this be a final nail in the coffin as far as Bibi's Gaza takeover or erasure plan is concerned? With former Israeli general now slamming the Gaza occupation plan as both futile and costly. France is baking under an unrelenting heat wave. In Paris and surrounding regions, maximum alert has been issued. Residents and aid workers are finding it challenging in a bid to cope with the extreme conditions. Take a look. Typhoon Podol pummeled Taiwan, shutting down businesses, grounding flights and knocking out power for tens of thousands of households. The devastating typhoon brought heavy rain, fierce winds of up to 191 kilometers per hour. The typhoon triggered towering waves across the region with powerful winds and heavy rain lashing the island. Are the visuals from southeastern city of Taitung, where Typhoon Podol ripped parts of a solar panel from a roof, as you can see, and debris flew everywhere. Hundreds of thousands of households suffered power outages. High-speed rail services on the west coast have also been reduced, while train services in the southeast have been cancelled. Many ferry services have also been suspended. More than 5,500 people have been evacuated from vulnerable areas, with schools and businesses closed across the south. Hundreds of flights have been cancelled across Taiwan, and all domestic flights have also been grounded, along with over 120 international routes, leaving airports nearly empty. Forecasters say the worst isn't over yet, with dangerous conditions ahead. For more on this, TVBS correspondent Dmitry Broyas has sent us this report from Taipei.
Typhoon Podul slammed into eastern Taiwan this afternoon, pummeling Taitung County. The storm brought heavy rain, fierce winds, and towering waves across the region. I'm reporting from Taipei as this powerful storm creates widespread chaos. The typhoon has crippled transportation systems, with airlines canceling flights. More than 300 flights were scrapped nationwide today alone. Taiwan Railway shut down all services on eastern and southern routes. Officials cite landslide risks in areas already battered by recent storms. Power failures hit Orchid Island hard earlier today, plunging hundreds of homes into darkness. Green Island also took a beating from massive storm-driven waves. Forecasters say the worst isn't over yet, with dangerous conditions ahead. The storm will continue its assault through early Thursday morning. Podul is now racing toward China at 25 kilometers per hour. This is Dimitri Bias in Taipei for TVBS World Taiwan.
In this next story, we will tell you about a disturbing new development in the intersection of AI, artificial intelligence, and personal privacy. In a digital age where AI can create nearly anything, one disturbing trend has emerged, one that is violating dignity, privacy, and trust. Victims of AI-generated pornography in Hong Kong are raising alarm over what they call a dangerous legal vacuum, one that leaves them exposed and unsupported. So what has actually happened? At the University of Hong Kong, 3 young women have ignited a national conversation after discovering that a law school peer had created hundreds of explicit images of them using AI technology. One of them described the ordeal as a wound that will leave a scar, while the other said that she no more feels safe on social media.
The incident is like a wound that can slowly recover, but after recovery, it will leave a scar. After the incident, I tried to be absent from work. I didn't dare to appear on the street because I didn't know whether that person would follow me in real life as well as altering my images, so I didn't dare to appear for that period of time.
The images were not circulated online. They were stored privately on the student's laptop, making legal action a complex challenge because Hong Kong currently criminalizes the distribution of intimate images, including the AI-made ones, but it does not have a law on the creation or possession of these images. Further, like I mentioned, making legal action more difficult. While the HKU case has thrust AI-made porn into the spotlight, it is not a first. In the University of Hong Kong, hundreds of images of at least 20 women were discovered on a student's laptop. And the problem just doesn't end here. According to a researcher from the University of Hong Kong, an estimated 90% of AI-made porn victims are women, suggesting that it is a form of a gender-based sexual violence. Meanwhile, lawmakers and experts are calling for urgent reforms, with many pointing to Britain and Singapore, where debates are underway on penalizing not only distribution but also creation and possession of AI-generated explicit content. In India's Uttarkashi, rescue and relief operations continue more than a week after a flash flood and mudslide swept through a remote village, with 4 deaths confirmed from the August 5th tragedy. Nearly 70 people remain unaccounted for as teams work around the clock to find the missing and help those affected. Take a look. other news, Nigeria's Air Force says it has killed nearly 600 armed militia members in the past 8 months. It's a part of an intensified campaign against insurgents in the country's northeast. But experts caution the reality on the ground tells a more complex story. The Air Force chief says 592 fighters were killed, over 200 technical vehicles destroyed, and 166 logistics hubs dismantled in Borno state since the start of the year. Terrorists from Boko Haram and its Islamic State West Africa province splinter group have long plagued the region, killing thousands and displacing communities. Air Chief says that the air war is now faster, sharper and more surgical, targeting high-value leaders and crippling supply chains. The offensive includes coordinated day and night strikes using a 29 Super Tucano aircraft, Mi-171 helicopters. Not just that, they even use enhanced surveillance platforms. But security experts say that the claimed gains are hard to verify, with Boko Haram factions still carrying out deadly attacks. Under Operation Hadin Kai, Nigeria's Air Force has flown nearly 800 combat sorties this year, while in the northwest, a joint air and ground raid recently killed scores of armed gang members in Zamfara state. And well, for more on this, our correspondent Luisa Oliani has sent us this report.
In a major blow to terrorism, the Nigerian Air Force said it has neutralized 592 terrorists and destroyed over 300 enemy assets in 8 months. Under Operation Hadin Kai, its airstrikes have destroyed terrorist hubs across Borno from Gonori to Damboa. Among the team's biggest wins is a crippling of 206 technical vehicles and 166 logistics hubs, severely limiting terrorist mobility. We recall a few days ago that the military said it killed scores of armed gang members in a joint air and ground operation in Zamfara state, northwest Nigeria, after more than 400 of them were seen preparing to attack a village. Despite challenges like rugged terrain and adapting to insurgent tactics, the NAF's precision strikes have surpassed 2024's operational gains. Now, with new gunships acquired to keep the fight going, citizens hope that this series of strikes decimates the terrorists totally. From Lagos, Nigeria, Luisa Olaniyi. WION, World is One.
Well, Europe's Ariane 6 heavy lift rocket has completed its third ever liftoff and second commercial mission. From the Kourou spaceport in French Guiana, the launch successfully placed the METO SGA-1 weather satellite into orbit, promising to improve global weather forecasts and also deepen our understanding of the climate. Take a look.
Top. Allumage de CSR et décollage. La propulsion est nominale. Pilotage calme, paramètres à bord sont normaux. Les paramètres à bord sont normaux, la trajectoire est nominale.
Well, how do you browse the internet and search for the information you require? What if I told you a new era of browsing could be right around the corner, one that is powered by AI, making your life simpler and more sorted than ever before. Case in point is this AI company called Perplexity. It's owned by an Indian origin CEO, which is seeking to acquire Google's Chrome browser for $34.5 billion, a price tag that nearly doubled its own valuation. As per reports, Taking a leap towards its goal, the company has managed to raise around $1 billion so far from major investors including Nvidia and Japan's SoftBank, possibly to fund this acquisition. And many are calling this move bold, as Chrome commands roughly over 3 billion users worldwide and is also a top choice among AI-powered search options. But that's not all that Perplexity is proposing in its rather unique merger plan. The company says it plans to keep Chrome's engine open source and retain Google as the default search engine on Chrome, instead of replacing it with its own AI tool. But how does the offer serve Perplexity exactly? Well, last year, the US Department of Justice, after winning an antitrust case against Google, proposed forcing the company to sell Chrome. The DOJ called it a critical search access point that entrenches Google's monopoly, which could now have a market competitor should the deal materialize. But how easy or difficult is this bid going to be, given the regulatory and user concerns about the acquisition? Well, like I said, Perplexity is not seeking to replace Google Chrome. Similarly, the offer also suggests retaining Google's key engineers to make it look like a partnership. Plus, the all-cash offer with no equity component guards it from the probable ramifications of a high-bidding deal, as well as the side effects of the antitrust case against Google Chrome. The stakes for Perplexity are undoubtedly higher, but challenges also remain as far as Google is concerned. The US tech giant might not relent easily and also plans to challenge antitrust probers in court, also with other investors offering greater sums up its shore. The question is, what will Google choose to do? That we'll have to wait and watch. Well, two different benches of India's Supreme Top Court have passed conflicting rulings on ending the stray dog menace in the country. One calls for all stray dogs in the capital to be rounded up and removed, while the other insists stray dogs should be sterilized and returned to their neighborhoods. The Supreme Court has now shifted the suo motu case to a newly constituted three-judge bench, which will hear the matter on Thursday. The court noted that the judges who passed the ban order are not part of the new bench. And earlier this morning itself, a Supreme Court lawyer mentioned a petition before the court seeking regular sterilization and vaccination of the animals. To this, the Chief Justice of India said that he would look into the issue of stray dogs in his court on Thursday, but it's not immediately clear if the Chief Justice was referring to the 2024 petition or the recent Supreme Court judgment that has triggered a backlash. The dog dilemma began earlier this week when a bench of the Supreme Court gave an order to relocate all the stray dogs in Delhi and surrounding areas. They are to be sent to safe shelters within a span of 8 weeks. The court took suo motu cognizance on rising reports of dog bites and rabies cases in the country. The judges said, forget the rules and focus on public safety, even if it meant hurting the sentiments of animal lovers. But this decision contradicts the Supreme Court's 2024 order. That order says authorities and officials are to follow the country's animal birth control rules, which says that the stray dogs are to be caught, sterilized, vaccinated, and then released back to their localities and neighborhoods. The earlier ruling also underlined compassion towards animals as a constitutional value. Integrated Health Platform says that over 10,000 people get bitten by dogs every day in India. But the actual number could be much higher. If you just look at the number of rabies deaths, the figures are startling. The government figures for rabies deaths in 2022 is 21. WHO, using government data and other Indian sources, say that 305 died of rabies in the same year. But WHO also says that its estimates of rabies deaths in India for 2022 is actually 1,800. Maharashtra state in India records the highest number of dog bite cases in the country, and that's followed by Tamil Nadu with 12.9 lakhs, Gujarat with 8.4 lakhs, Karnataka 7.6 lakhs and Andhra Pradesh with 6.5 lakhs. This conflicted order has divided residents and animal rights activists. The Residents' Welfare Association have welcomed the dog-free neighborhood plan. That's on one side of the camp. Meanwhile, the other, the animal rights activists say that it's impractical. They point that the shelters will be overcrowded and they are underfunded in New Delhi. In an exclusive conversation with WION, animal rights activist and former Union Minister Menka Gandhi says that the Supreme Court order is not practical and that the Delhi government does not have the resources to build shelters for stray dogs. Take a listen.
Unfortunately, this was like an Alice in Wonderland order in which the Red Queen says, "Off with your head." So this was similar to that. It was illogical. It can't be done. Responsibility on government, which is not prepared to do this thing.
In a land where nature reigns supreme and ancient traditions hold sway, a new battle is being fought. In Masai Mara, a new exclusive safari lodge has opened its doors, triggering a legal war, pitting profit against preservation. We're cutting across live to the US President Donald Trump. Take a listen.
I'm going to call President Zelensky, and then I'll call, probably in that order, the leaders. There's a very good chance that we're going to have a second meeting, which will be more productive than the first, because the first is I'm going to find out where we are and what we're doing. Again, this is Biden's war. This isn't my war. He got us into this thing, and it should have never happened. This war would have never happened if I were president. But it is what it is, and I'm here to fix it, and I'm here to stop 6,000, 7,000 people last week. 7,213 people last week were killed, mostly soldiers. But missiles being lobbed into towns don't exactly help either, but mostly soldiers. And Ukrainian and Russian, they're not American soldiers, but if we can save a lot of lives, it would be a great thing. I've stopped 5 wars in the last 6 months. And on top of that, we wiped out the nuclear capability of Iran, obliterated it. It's turned out to be a correct word, by the way, because some of the press said, well, maybe it wasn't obliteration. It was obliteration. And we're going to meet with, I would say, the second meeting. If the first one goes okay, we'll have a quick second one. I would like to do it almost immediately. And we'll have a quick second meeting between President Putin and President Zelensky and myself, if they'd like to have me there. And that would be a meeting where maybe it could be absolutely work. But the first meeting will not work that out. Certain great things can be gained in the first. It's going to be a very important meeting. But it's setting the table for the second meeting. I think the second meeting, if the second meeting takes place, now there may be no second meeting, because if I feel that it's not appropriate to have it because I didn't get the answers that we have to have, then we're not going to have a second meeting.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
I didn't ask you. Go ahead, please, address.
I just wanted to ask you, thank you, Mr. President. How involved were you in the selection process of these honorees?
I would say I was about 98% involved. No, they all went through me. They came over, Rick and Sergio and everybody. They said, I turned down plenty. They were too woke. I had a couple of wokesters. No, we have great people. This is very different than it used to be. Very different. These are great people, and they're not. I don't have any idea of the Republican, because I want people that the Kennedy Center has everything. Look at the Academy Awards. It gets lousy ratings now. It's all woke. All they do is talk about how much they hate Trump. But nobody likes that. They don't watch anymore. That used to have 45 million people watching. I remember The Apprentice, first season. The Apprentice had 42 million people. The Academy Awards had 41 million people. We were the second show to the Super Bowl. But since then, the Academy Awards have gone down to, I think they've gone down to numbers that are like a regular show, because it went woke. We're not doing it for that reason. We're doing it because we want the great talent. But these are great people. So I was just a very long answer, but I was very involved.
President, the Biden administration was auctioning off border wall materials, but we're hearing now that the auctioneer is selling those materials back. Are you finishing building the wall?
Well, I built hundreds of miles of wall, and I was getting very close. I actually finished the wall, but then I added another 200 miles because when you do the original wall that I said I was going to build, which I got built, and I got it to the specifications of the Border Patrol and ICE, the exact. They wanted steel, they wanted concrete inside, they wanted rebar inside that, they wanted it to have wires. The walls are wired for, you know, all of the internet stuff and security things. And we built it hundreds of miles. We did great. That's one of the reasons even now we're able to have such good numbers at zero, or essentially very little people coming in. But Biden, I ordered for another 200 miles. I was going to do another 200 because it's the way it is. And we're all set to do it. Then we had the bad election result, the horrible, what happened to our country, what they've allowed to happen to our country. And we are taking now that wall back. They sold the wall. Now, this is expensive stuff. Hardened steel, very expensive. 9,000-pound concrete and rebar. Rebar is very expensive, the hardest rebar. No, it's very hard to cut. You have different materials. It's very hard to cut because they cut it down if they can. It's very hard to cut. And Biden sold it for pennies on the dollar, 3 cents on the dollar, 4 cents on the dollar. He sold it. And I said, these guys really don't want it. That was when I first realized, when I saw the wall was being put up, because we could have finished the rest of the wall in about 4 weeks, anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks. It was all set to go. It was laying down, ready to be put up. The foundations were, and they took over, and they said, we're going to sell the wall. And they sold it, as you know, for pennies on the dollar. Well, Pam Bondi's been working very hard on suing that company, and I think they reached a settlement where we're taking the wall back. But they stole the wall from us. That wall is so expensive to build, and we had it, as you know, hundreds of miles of it, and they came along and they basically sold it for scrap. And what a shame that is. But that was when I first realized that these people actually want to have open borders. And no country has poor countries don't have open borders. No, we had open borders where people just walked in. It didn't matter what they looked like, who they were. We had 11,888 murderers, half of whom killed more than one person. I mean, literally, killed more than one person. And this is who we took into our country. So the wall is the least of it, but we're going to take the wall back. We're paying a small amount of money, as I understand it, to get it back, to get rid of the litigation. We'll take it back. We'll put it up. Yeah. Go ahead in the back, please.
I want to take it back to the Kennedy Center, if I can, just for a second, Mr. President.
Sure.
From what I understand, the Les Mis show exceeded everyone's expectations. Attendance, revenue, across the board.
That's great.
Do you anticipate future shows to basically do the same?
I like that guy. Now, that's called a question, okay? And he's a great reporter, actually. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, it did great. Les Mis did great, broke records, and was sold out and beautiful. And we anticipate a lot of that happening. There's a thirst for it.
And that was U.S. President Donald Trump, who said that he held a good phone call with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky and the European leaders. And he further said that after meeting with Putin in Alaska on August 15th, he will call Zelensky and the European leaders. He, however, ruled out any second meeting as of now, and again asserted that this is Biden's war and he only wants to stop the Ukraine-Russia war. Well, in other news, in a land where nature reigns supreme and ancient traditions hold sway, a new battle is being fought. In Masai Mara, a new exclusive safari lodge has opened its doors, triggering a legal war, pitting profit against preservation and exposing a stark choice between conservation and commerce. Take a look.
The Masai Mara remains a natural wonder where grass plains stretch into forever and thunderous herds of wildebeest crash their way across ancient migration trails. It is Africa at its wildest, stalking lions, zebra convoys, and an untamed symphony of survival that entrances travelers and scientists alike. This is the heart of a fragile ecosystem, a sacred land where the rhythms of nature dictate life itself. But now, a new beat has begun to echo across the plains, a rhythm of luxury and exclusivity. The arrival of a new Ritz-Carlton Safari Lodge, with prices starting at as $3,500 a night, promises a front-row seat to this natural wonder. But can a lavish, exclusive resort truly honor the wild, or does it, by its very nature, diminish it? A lawsuit alleges that the new development poses a direct and existential threat to the very wildebeest migration that it uses as its primary selling point.
If you look at the tourism industry behavior today as we speak, they're still doing the same stuff. They're driving off the road, they are, harassing wildlife, and at the same time, you have community members who have knowledge on how to deal with situations. Like they are not being involved at all in this industry, in how tourism is regulated, in how tourism interacts with the community. So all these issues have contributed negatively to the Masai.
The outcome of this legal battle will not just determine the future of one lodge, but could set a precedent for the entire conservation and tourism model in Africa.
And well, with that, we slip into a very short break. Thanks very much for staying with us. You are watching WION World is One. Stay tuned.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.